Ruslan.
So recently, the New York Post released a scathing story about Hunter Biden and what appears to be some degree of corruption in terms of Hunter Biden, this theory that he's been kind of finessing his father's last name in exchange for favors, business favors, so on and so forth. Now, Joe Biden, I always want to say Joe Budden. Joe Biden has been denying this for a long time. He said it's been fact-checked, such and such and such. Well, apparently, Hunter Biden, and no judgment on him, but this definitely has some drug addict vibes to it, just the way the story came together. He takes his MacBook, or has somebody take his MacBook to a repair shop and forgets it. Now, this MacBook apparently has all kinds of sensitive information on there, international information with Ukraine and parts of Asia. And the owner, obviously upon repairing it, I guess kind of a conspiracy theorist, takes the MacBook, makes a clone of the hard drive, calls the FBI, gives FBI the MacBook, says, hey, this looks like some sensitive information on there, gives the FBI the MacBook, and then reads through the emails and sees all kinds of interesting emails on there regarding Hunter potentially setting up meetings with his dad, Joe Biden, who was the vice president, he's running for president. And I don't know if any laws were broken, but definitely the vibes of corruption all over this thing, right? Definitely the vibes of corruption all over this thing in terms of kind of like political favors or access to the vice president in exchange for what appears to be Joe Biden's son getting business favors and contracts and all that kind of stuff internationally. The question of Ukraine that came up before, again, Joe Biden has denied this repeatedly. Well, the New York Post got this because the owner of this store passed the information from the hard drive, from the laptop. Remember, he gave the laptop to the FBI. He passed it on to Rudy Giuliani, who's Trump's attorney. So the Republicans get this information. I guess somehow they then pass it on to the New York Post. New York Post runs a story, reveals the emails. It's not looking good, and it just looks like just the whole thing just looks like a mess right now. This is bad. How bad is it? I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't know if the American public's already made up their mind on who they're voting for. I don't know. I don't know how bad it is. But New York Post runs this story, and subsequently, Facebook and Twitter, I don't think YouTube did, but Facebook and Twitter then go on to block the story from being shared or suppress the information because it hasn't been verified and fact-checked. Now, of course, the conservatives, the Republicans are crying foul because, hey, when Trump's taxes leaked, there was no suppression of that. There was no fact-checking if those were his actual taxes. That story went rampant by the New York Times. And so here they're looking at this and they're like, hey, this is jacked up. How could you guys suppress this information? That's not right. So on and so forth. So it appears that it's getting suppressed, and they basically came out and said, "Yeah, we're gonna third-party fact check it," which is questions about if Facebook said this, their third-party fact check is even biased or not. And basically, the way it looks is that mainstream media or social media, specifically Twitter and Facebook, which is a lot of media, is suppressing a story that they don't like. Maybe that they find critical, maybe that they find damaging to the Biden campaign. They seem to have a leftist ideology. They want to have Biden in office. That is the way it appears. So I tweeted this yesterday, and I said, hey, so is Twitter and Facebook really suppressing this Hunter Biden story? Has it been fact-checked yet, right? And I'm just kind of like, I'm just trying to figure it out, right? And it says, people were tweeting at least 5 different articles about it. I pinned it on my page and it got deleted. It appears that way. It seems like a pretty brazen-faced censorship in an effort to shield Biden from political fallout. Yes, bro. And then I saw this. In a weird twist of events, Jack Dorsey came out and basically admitted it and said our communication around our actions on the New York Post article was not great. and blocking URL sharing via tweet or DM with zero context as to why we're blocking unacceptable. So a story that it may or may not be true. By the way, the Biden campaign has not denied that the emails are real. And essentially, first they said, well, it wasn't any of these meetings that the Sun and these different leaders from Ukraine, any of those meetings, they weren't on Biden's calendar. But then they later came out and said, well, we don't know if they did or didn't happen. So, okay, again, were any laws broken? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. Signs of corruption? Yeah, I think so. And then this is okay. This is something that I learned. This is something that I learned from battle rap, right? Back in the day when Jay-Z would have somebody come at him and he didn't want some information getting out, or he didn't want to engage with somebody. You know what Jay-Z did? Jay-Z had a philosophy where the king doesn't speak down from his throne to the peasants. That's a quote from his, I believe. Big idea is, if there's something getting traction that you don't want to get traction, you just ignore it and move on. Okay, you just ignore it and move on. You don't suppress it. You don't make people not share it, because in the age of fast information, in the age of conspiracy theorists, in the age of all this stuff, you just look whack for suppressing it, even and not offering an explanation. And this is what this makes this entire Jack Dorsey reaction crazy, is that, like, he basically admitted it. Our communication around our actions on the New York articles was not New York Post article was not great, and blocking URL sharing via tweet or DM with zero context as to why we're blocking is unacceptable. We want to provide much needed clarity around the actions, as we've this is Twitter saying, we want to provide much needed clarity around the actions we've taken with respect to 2 New York Times Post articles that were first tweeted this morning. So clearly, this confirms the notion that folks on the right have been saying for a while, which is majority of the mainstream media tends to lean left. This seems like it's, wow, this is, at this point, is fairly confirmed, right? Twitter's confirmed it, and they're saying they're trying to do in that fact checking, but this is not good for Biden, because of them seemingly attempting to censor it. Had they just been quiet, and just not said anything, let the story go. Well, we deny the allegations. Like, that's all Biden needed to say. They didn't need to spread it. And now it's a bigger story because these idiots at Facebook and Twitter suppressed the story. You just made it worse for yourselves. And if you do have a political agenda, this looks bad against Biden. Does it look like he's going to lose the election bad? I don't know. But in another weird twist turn of events, so it's like, okay, so you check it out. You drop a story comes out. You can make the story go away, right? You can make the story go away. So you suppress it. Instead, let the story go. Just let the story go. It doesn't matter. You don't address the fault. We don't negotiate with terrorists, right? That's the notion. We don't even acknowledge fake news. You could have just let it run, right? Just let the story run, right? Instead, you suppress it. That makes it a bigger story. And then, to make it worse, then the president tweets. I can't make this stuff up, guys. To make the whole thing worse, then the president tweets a Babylon Bee satirical article about all of this. What happened? Basically, when I was checking this, ironically, Twitter was down for half the day, which never really happens, but Twitter was down. So then the president tweets. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Babylon Bee, they are a satirical website. Their motto is like pushing fake news, right? So then, to make matters worse, he tweets a completely fake story. Can't make this up. Twitter shuts down entire network to slow spread of negative Biden news. Wow, this has never been done in history. This includes his really bad interview last night. Why is Twitter doing this? Bringing more attention to Sleepy Joe and Big T. So let's click on the article. Okay, guys, if you don't know what the Babylon Bee is, this is hilarious. This entire thing is satire. Okay, in a last-ditch effort to stop negative stories about Joe Biden and his family from spreading, Twitter shut down its entire social network Thursday. After seeing account after account tweet out one particular bad story, CEO Jack Dorsey realized he had to take action. Dorsey smashed a glass box in his office reading "Breaking case of bad publicity for Democrats." Inside the case was a sledgehammer for smashing Twitter's service. Red alert, shut the servers down. Dorsey ran downstairs and started smashing as many computers. But he did not ask for some help, as the hammer was pretty heavy. None of the programmers could lift the hammer either. Eventually, they managed to program a robot to pick. Eventually, they were able to manage to program a robot to sledgehammer and smash the servers. After hearing a Twitter employee talk about critical theory, the robot got woke and began attacking on the. Yo! What is going on? What is going on, fam? So bad news story comes out. Twitter suppresses it, makes the bad story look worse, makes all these Republicans look like they're correct. Leftist media suppressing it. Then Trump tweets a satirical article from the Babylon Bee, which makes him look like a complete idiot. And I'm not saying the president is an idiot. I don't think he's an idiot. I'm saying he looks like an idiot when he pushes this kind of stuff. Guys, this is insane. This is insane that this is happening in I guess it's not insane that it's happening in 2020, but this is incredible. So let's go back to this tweet. This is a real tweet. This is still on his timeline. He didn't take it down. Somebody get your mans. Twitter fingers. What? No. Mr. Twitter fingers himself. Gosh. All right. So I'm looking through this. Babylon Bee after this. You are so ignorant. You literally tweeting out satire news. You have officially reached a new low. The satire president tweets satire news from the Babylon Bee. I could hardly wait until the book is shut down on this pathetic chapter in American history. We can go about the business of. So listen, what's the moral of the story? This comes out. Oh gosh, Biden potentially corrupt, doing some shady stuff. His son's doing some shady stuff. Son's a drug addict. By the way, there's all kinds of other stuff on that laptop that came out. Apparently, there's an hour-long video of Hunter Biden smoking crack. Like all kinds of crazy stuff. Bad. That's like just bad stuff, right? That comes out. Okay. So what do? Okay. You suppress the story. That backfires. And then the president makes it worse. He should have just said nothing. Fake news again. This is the leftist media. Be done with it. No. He then tweets satire news that makes him look like an idiot and an incompetent person who just doesn't get it. Okay? This is hilarious. Yes, and I do agree with you. Maybe Trump does need to take a page out of Biden's book and just take his phone from him and you go hide in the basement or in the bunker until this whole thing blows over, because goodness gracious, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. I don't think he knows this was a joke. No, I don't think he knows that. And I think if you do think that, you're showing extreme cognitive dissonance and extreme confirmation bias. He left this up as if it were real. There's nothing in here that shows that he understands this as satire. I don't think so. I think you're showing extreme cognitive dissonance. But nevertheless, this is the era that we live in. The whole thing is hilarious. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this? Because I think this is incredible. And I just think this is why both parties are corrupt. This is why both of these parties, this is why we need another option, yo. This is why I'm politically agnostic. Imagine that someday there is a world where you don't have the two oldest guys to ever be presidents, by the way, arguing and fighting over this stuff. One guy is tweeting satire news as if it's real, and you can deny and say, oh, he knew it was. No, he didn't. And then another guy that's just like, seems like he's completely asleep at the wheel. And it's Weekend at Bernie's. Like, this is hilarious. This entire thing is hilarious. And I think a day is coming. Where we will wake up. Talk about Sleepy Joe. We will wake up and we will say both of these parties are ridiculous, extreme, divisive, and nasty, and we can do better. I think that day is coming. I'm ready for it. Let me know what you think.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan